Meteorologist Mark Molnar with a special edition of Weather Northeastern. It seems like every edition here is a special winter weather coverage edition. And before I get into some viewer sent in videos here, I want to discuss an interesting phenomenon happening in New England called the Norlun Trough. And this is what will be happening over the next 24 to 36 hours across the state of Maine into New Brunswick and portions of northern New Hampshire as well. We will have a low pressure system, and just to the northwest of this low pressure system, we will have a trough extending from it, and this would be a Norlun Trough, typically extending to the northwest of low pressure systems. And they typically set up shop usually around the state of Maine. So you're no stranger to these in the state of Maine, even into northern New Hampshire as well as portions of New Brunswick. And this is exactly what is going to be happening. Now, it's very interesting and also very complicated to actually forecast a Norlun Trough and see where it's going to set up shop. And where the greatest instability will occur is where the most snowfall will happen, and they tend to orient in bands along and around the Norlun Trough itself. It's like an inverted trough, and simply it's a layer of instability. It's a weak layer, a weak trough with enough instability to cause some heavy snows across portions of New England. So this is very interesting. As I said here in the diagram, what happens is air at the surface converges, and you got air coming in from two different directions on both sides of the trough, similar to a front. And then the air has to, what does it have to do? It has to rise because you have the relatively cold air above, and you got the warm air at the surface, relatively warm. Not warm enough for rain or anything like that, liquid, but it's all relative. And as this parcels of air become buoyant, they're warmer than the surrounding and upper layers of the atmosphere. This is what causes the rising, and then once it gets into the upper layers of the atmosphere, you have upper level divergence. So you've got low level convergence and you've got upper level divergence, and this is creating condensation and clouds in the upper layers of the atmosphere. And this is what the Norlun Trough is going to create, especially late Wednesday night into Thursday, especially from Portland, Augusta, all the way up to Caribou. Those are the areas that will probably be hardest hit by this Norlun Trough. So let's get right into some viewer sent in videos here. Lucas from Linden, Texas, he's got some nice warm videos to show us. First video is by his sister Courtney here, having a nice look at a robin here. This is very nice, and it's making a lot of us here in the north very jealous. So very nice capture, Courtney, here of this beautiful robin across the Linden, Texas area. And his other photos, his other videos here were from himself, Lucas. And as we scroll through these videos here, we can see a common theme. A lot of wildlife is out, mainly birds. Very, very large bird, to say the least, flying across the sky here. Very nice capture, Lucas. And of course, he's zooming in on one here on a wire, power line. And some of these birds look like springtime birds. So touch of spring, and temperatures are warming up here in Linden into the 50s and even some 60s, so very nice. And his last one makes a lot of us jealous here. Look at this beautiful sunset across the Linden area, so very nice. Thank you, Lucas and Courtney, for sending these beautiful videos in from the south. This is a taste of things to come, hopefully for the north, come in the next couple months. We got to get through the rest of winter though. Let's take a look at precipitation amounts from the deep south. Linden, you're right in the thick of it. You will be getting some rains, especially later Friday into Saturday. And then that rain stretches across the southeast, but it's just north of Linden into Little Rock, portions of Memphis, Nashville, all the way up the Appalachians, and then eventually towards the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, and even parts of the Ohio Valley. We could be looking at a storm system making a run for the Ohio Valley and possibly some kind of transfer of energy. It's very complex, so things are likely to evolve and change over the next several days. Let's take a look at that scenario that we have setting up. Got the jet stream digging here into the east for later this weekend, the middle to latter portion of the weekend. The beginning portion of the weekend, the storm really starts to get organized here across the south. You see a lot of overrunning precipitation, and that overrunning precipitation will extend its way on Saturday night and Sunday across the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and up into portions of New England as well. And some areas across the Ohio Valley, maybe even Pittsburgh, will change to plain rain for a time, even maybe as far north as the I-80 corridor. So we'll have to watch for this. It looks like a lot of mixing going on, even up into the Mid-Atlantic here. So we're going to have to watch that. Things could go back and forth here with the models, and thermal profiles will be at the biggest. So I have a lot of areas in mixed precipitation here. I'll have more details on that in coming segments. Let's take a look at the surface maps, starting with your Thursday here. Take a look at this. We've got the Clipper fast moving across the northeast, and as I said, there's that Norlun Trough here, Norlun Trough, and that will be setting up shop early Thursday morning, late Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. Heavy snows continuing across portions of Portland, Augusta, up to Caribou, even over into portions of New Brunswick here, where we could see a solid 7 to 12 inches with locally higher amounts likely. And I'll highlight those snowfall amounts here very quickly here once I get done with Thursday's map. Getting much colder here across the lakes into the northeast New York State. Look at this. Single digits wind chill watches and warnings are already posted in effect, even across the U.S.-Canadian border northward, looking very frigid. But take a look at these snowfall totals. We're seeing that general 2 to 4 inches here from late Wednesday night into portions of New England. But the big story here is, take a look at this. With the Norlun Trough up here into New England, this Norlun Trough will be enough to dump in many areas where those heaviest bands of snow set up, upwards of 7 inches to a foot of snow, maybe even locally higher in the more persistent bands. So very interesting weather feature here, to say the least. Most of that should stay north of Boston and east of Concord at this time. So let's take a look at your heading off to the TGIF Friday, sweeping that system off the map, setting us up for colder, high pressure, very frigid. Frigid is the name of the game here. Most of even the highest highs on the map not getting out of the mid to upper teens. Lots of single digits, just a very miserable day. Lots of wind chill warnings continuing across the northeast here into Saturday. Here's where things get interesting. You start to see increasing moisture from the Ohio Valley, from the South Appalachians here, and on up into the Great Lakes. We got a number of those factors coming together. A couple lows, one from the Great Lakes, another from the Ohio Valley and southern states here. And it'll be interesting to see. The first low will probably be enough to drag up some cold air. I'll show you for Sunday's map, but we'll start as frozen precipitation south of I-80 here, especially later in the day Saturday. Heading on into Sunday, take a look at this. We really start to get into some precipitation, heavy precipitation. Another low, strung out low along the coast here, along a stalled out frontal boundary will start to form. So we'll start to get some sort of coastal potentially going here. But as I said, most of the precipitation that occurs inland here will be of the overrunning variety and could change from snow over to sleet and then eventually to freezing rain across much of the northeast. Many areas actually getting above freezing across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, maybe even New York City, parts of southern New England, over towards Ohio. But that will quickly be swept to the east as we get colder air filtering back into the picture. So as I said, these warm-ups are very short-lived. So get out there and chisel off whatever remaining ice you have to get rid of. So that's going to do it for this edition of Weather Northeastern. I'm going to have a 5-day outlook for my hometown viewers from Binghamton to Scranton's upstate New York, Susquehanna region, from Binghamton, Elmira, and Scranton. Don't forget to like me on Facebook at MeteoMark, subscribe to me on YouTube at MeteoMark.com. It's Twitter at WX Northeastern, and Google Plus at MeteoMark. Here's your 5-day. Stretching from Thursday, you got some morning snow. As I said, total accumulation from Wednesday night to Thursday, about 2 to 4 inches, then just turning blustery and colder, single digits, about 2 degrees for a high. Heading off into Thursday night into Friday, look at that low down to -12 to -15. Only looking for a high of about 2 or 3 degrees heading off into your Saturday. Much warmer as we get those southerly winds with that next system, maybe bumping up into the low to mid 20s. Maybe some snow by the time Saturday evening rolls around. Speaking of Saturday night, there it is. Snow changing to sleet and freezing rain by 4 or 5 a.m. Accumulation of about 2 to 4 inches before the changeover, looking really interesting. Sunday, we could be a mixture of snow, sleet, freezing rain to rain, and then potentially back to snow. So it's looking really messy. And then Monday, much colder again. That's going to do it for this edition of Weather Northeastern.